Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and the news definitely drives me insane. Beware the latest Android malware on Google Play! Your iPhone can be hacked with malware even when it's switched off, new research finds. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I don't mind reading articles that are really designed to fearmonger the hell out of people, but I like to really dispel some misinformation that I find, and I like to educate in some capacity. A while back we looked at Google, Chrome, it's hacked. Hey guys, Google just admitted that your data, it was insane articles, okay, written by some of the most laughable, mainstream websites that I've ever seen. And of course, when you actually look beyond the clickbait and you look beyond the outrage, it's actually a much more mundane situation. However, behind every single one of these articles, there's something to teach because there's at least some nugget of truth or something worthwhile to dig into. Now, a while back, one of my favorite channels who talks about, privacy and security, Mental Outlaw, actually made a video titled Improving Smartphone Privacy, where he talked about the fact that, hey, you have smartphones, you understand that you got to make sure the privacy on these devices are maintained pretty well. Because in the digital age, all right, in my opinion, when it comes to computer devices, when it comes to, our mainstream PCs, our laptops, whatever you want to call it, tablets, these are devices we obviously use on a day-to-day basis. But I would wager to say that we use these devices way less than we use our actual cell phone devices. Because no matter what, these cell phone devices that we have are devices that contain a lot of our personal information, all the photos that we're taking care of, a bunch of different things that are very important to us. A lot of us do banking through these applications. So of course, when it comes to keeping security on these applications, it's so much more paramount than just doing it on your actual computer. Now, of course, this video from Mental Outlaw is focused more on privacy, right? Making sure that you weren't necessarily tracked. So I want to look through a bunch of these articles and really just talk about some certain things that really sort of set me off, something that I can kind of dispel and help you understand. Now, in this one article, they were talking about iPhone can be hacked with malware even when it's switched off. Now, of course, this is new research finds, okay? Meaning that a security research group sat down and came up with a pretty good theoretical way on how iPhones can be hacked. Now, to understand, the way that they do it is even when an iPhone is turned off, right? Now, to understand, there are two smartphone-like operating systems that are pretty much the de facto, one or the other. You've got iOS for iPhones, and you've got Android for all the other big mainstream smartphones. Now, there's also other operating systems that exist. You can straight up have Linux on a device. Like if you buy I believe it's the Pine phone or a Librem phone or whatever, and some of those devices come with literal hardware switches, so you can turn off things like your microphone, your camera, your speakers, whatever you want to name it, okay? So those are obviously much more niche devices. When it comes to an iPhone device or an Android device, iPhone devices are reasonably secure because they're basically locked off by Apple, right? Apple basically dictates what you can and cannot put on that device. They add a lot of security frameworks that most people cannot access unless they jailbreak an iPhone, which means that they gain root access to it. They can actually do other things beyond the scope of, Apple's control, which voids warranties as far as I understand, and sometimes can pose an even bigger threat. It opens up a security footprint, a problem at times. But that's one aspect for iPhone devices, right? They're reasonably secure products, and it's generally understood that if you download applications on an iOS device, you're going to be reasonably safe because Apple is putting in the extra effort to make sure their apps are free from malware. However, that's not always the case. When it comes to Android devices, it's kind of laissez-faire, okay? You've got the Google Play Store, which has its own problem with malware, but you've also got various other stores. Like if you buy a Samsung device, you have access to the Samsung Galaxy Store. Amazon devices, you have access to the Amazon App Store. You get the point. You can also just straight up download APK files, which are packages, programs for Android devices, and install them without any stores whatsoever. With the free nature of Android devices, malware gets spread a whole heck of a lot more. But let's whittle it on back to the iPhone real quick. Now, in this article, in this research, they were talking about how even when the phone is switched off, you can actually still get hacked. So here they say the feature is enabled because 3 chips wireless features stay on: Bluetooth, near-field communications, and ultra-wideband. Now that's actually true. So for instance, if you actually owned a phone where you can remove the battery, not really that common these days, you'll actually find out if the time on the phone reads 10:30, for instance, right, AM, you could rip the battery out of the device, put it aside for like 2-3 weeks, and then when you come back and plug that battery back in, without the internet connection or any connection to a satellite or anything, a phone, a cell phone tower, it'll actually maintain the clock pretty accurately. That's because even when you remove a battery and the phone is switched off, there are components on a phone that constantly receive power to keep track of system kernel time. Same can be said for computer motherboards, right? Even if you disconnect a computer from the wall, it'll still keep track of hardware time, right? To a certain extent, until like the little batteries on them start dying. Now, whether that battery could be used to power things like antennas that can communicate with GPS satellites and cell phone towers that can still triangulate your position even if a phone is switched off is questionable, right? Like that's something you can obviously run through your head. Now, in this situation, they were talking about 3 features, right? Bluetooth, NFC, which basically means like when you tap your phones with another phone, you can send files, right? So you're constantly communicating. It's the same sort of technology that lets you use a credit card and tap and pay. Ultra wideband, a lot of these features that remain on or in a very low power state even when the phone is switched off. Now, in certain cases, when it comes to Bluetooth, the firmware on there can be potentially hacked, which is what they were discussing in this situation. Now, to disclaim everything, none of this has ever been seen out in the wild, okay? But then again, with computer hacks out there, who knows until you actually end up finding the hack months down the road, like SolarWinds, for instance. So this is one of those articles that I kept seeing. The other one was Android, right? Where they were talking about Face Stealer. Now, Face Stealer is an interesting malware that I've seen in the last few days, where people who have an Android device typically get their social media credentials stolen. So things like their Facebook password, their Twitter password, their Discord passwords, you name it. So how does this happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, bring on the magical world of the App Store. Now, the App Store is a beautiful thing. You can download tons of awesome shit off of there, okay? But there's a lot of crap that exists that is made by malicious individuals that use it to spread actual malware. So in this case, security researchers found applications that were malware ridden. Now, this shouldn't shock you when you actually find applications known as processing photo. App Lock Keep, okay? Rubbish Cleaner. A lot of people download shit like this to add security to their device, or in this case, in Rubbish Cleaner, make their device operate faster. It fucking doesn't do a thing, and it pisses me off when I see this on anybody's device. Horoscope Daily. Horoscope Pi. What is stopping you from opening your web browser on your device and looking up the horoscope every day? Why do you need to download an app for this garbage? Now, even when you look at these star ratings, like for instance, this one had like 642 reviews with a near 5-star rating. That's not good enough, because even these can be manipulated pretty hard by click farm bots on the other side of the world, okay? Now, what these applications consisted of was the actual application, right? Like here you can actually process photos, you can, block off applications like App Lock Keep could actually lock, I guess, or, do all this extra shit. And what's really the crazy thing about it is you would eventually get notifications like this in the app, like for instance, log in to remove ads by basically logging into your Facebook account. Now, from what I understand, this would lead you to a legitimate form, but because the actual application is caked in malware, they would basically siphon your actual user credentials. So you put in your email, you put in your password, you log into Facebook, but by the time you've done that, whoever's running it has already received your login credentials. We've looked at this all before. We've looked at this with, browser exploitation. We've looked at this with people giving you actual malware, remote access Trojans that basically siphon off every single aspect. So obviously, this malware exists to steal stuff. Now, you and I will probably look at this and go, it's a fake little thing. I'm not going to give myself to something so suspicious, right? But you're underestimating a grand majority of people who have no technical know-how, and they'll just give their information away. That's what this is targeted for, and unfortunately, it works wonders for those people. So obviously those apps we just saw were super low quality. But even beyond their low quality nature, which would make anybody suspicious, you have to go into the permissions manager on your Android or iPhone device and make sure you do a thorough audit of what's actually like looking into your camera applications, your microphone access, whatever you want to call it. See, with most of the modern day devices, permissions are a big thing, right? So when you download an application from the Google Play Store and it asks you, hey, can we access your camera? Can we access your file managers? Can we access your phone? Can we access your text messages? Can we access certain key features on your device? You have to make a very, very intelligent observation as to should that application deserve it. Like, let's say you download a calculator application, right? And suddenly it tells you, can I have access to your phone and text messages? Why would a calculator application even need that? Obviously, it's doing it so they can send some fake text message to a premium service and siphon like a few cents out of your account every single, day. Also, would a camera request be made for a calculator application? Why? If you're doing 2 + 2 = 4, do you need that application to access your camera features? Like basic shit like that is what you need to do. So look through your permissions that you've granted on your cell phone and make sure that you're not granting weird permissions to applications that don't really need them. That's a pretty simple security audit. Now, of course, even going further into it, problem applications come in a few varieties. And of course, they're always either fake VPN services, which is a serious situation. Now, I believe that nothing in the world is truly free, right? And that's so true for VPN services. I don't use free VPN services at all. I don't trust free VPN services. Fuck, I don't even trust 90% of paid VPN services. So the way that a VPN works, obviously, is your phone is routing its network traffic to another server, right? So let's say that you want to watch Netflix, right? American Netflix, right? Like a US show. What you do with a VPN is you connect to a VPN that's routing you to a US data center. So according to Netflix, because it's receiving its, information from a US server, it believes that your device is located in the United States. So remember, you send your data to a US VPN data center. That data center then talks to Netflix. Netflix believes the data center is where you're actually located. Now, of course, in a VPN service, you're routing your entire network traffic through a VPN. Now, in certain cases, this is very beneficial. For instance, if you're in an unsecured Wi-Fi, like you're in Starbucks, it's actually beneficial for you to have a VPN service that encrypts your network traffic and sends it to a server. So if somebody's sitting in an unsecured Wi-Fi hotspot and they whip out their MacBook and they're like capturing network packets, you come by encrypted, which is good. Now, of course, that also means you put a lot of trust into whatever service you're using. If you're using a free VPN service, at best, they'll inject advertisements into your web pages that'll make them money. That's like the best case scenario. Even if you can trust a VPN service for your privacy and basically the fact that they may be storing your data in RAM disks as to avoid caching anything, you can't trust certain countries like India, for instance, where the IT minister wants to collect usernames, addresses, and purposes of using those specific VPN services to basically spy or control whatever goes on in the internet sphere. VPN services in India cannot advertise security or privacy anymore when they've backdoored themselves to the government in such a capacity. And of course, if you use a VPN service that's located or hosted in a Five Eyes country, or their data centers are located there, they're also subject to subpoenas. So again, you have to be really careful which VPN service you use, and then you have to also put in the trust that they themselves won't be doing anything malicious with whatever data you're sending, whether your data is properly encrypted and whatnot. So there's a lot to go into this situation, and for people who download free, VPN services, you're shooting yourself a little bit in the foot. Again, camera and photo editing applications. Anything that accesses your camera to take photos of you, for instance, or accessing your photo gallery so that they can, and especially if they have network access to send those photos back and forth, is equally as scary. Be careful with what you download. A lot of those photo editing applications are, garbage. First off, they're low quality, and a lot of your cell phone devices have built-in features into their own galleries, so you can do the same thing in a much more safe environment. And then, of course, cryptocurrency-related applications. This is obviously, common knowledge. Anything related to cryptocurrencies, you should absolutely download a reputable cryptocurrency app and not just anything under the sun. Because when it comes to cryptocurrency apps, there's a very good chance that a lot of these applications will try to steal your wallet keys from your devices, which would mean that you're losing access to some of your actual digital assets. So again, I just wanted to make this video to really talk about keeping your smartphones safe, because ladies and gentlemen, a lot of this malware floats around. But I wanted to make this video as a catch-all, right? When it comes to your iPhone and your Android devices, be careful with what type of applications you download, stage, execute on your device, because there's a good chance if you use anything low quality, you're actually opening yourself up to having your data stolen, your devices hacked, and some serious stuff stolen away from you. Now, of course, that doesn't mean popular applications are 100% safe. That's not a silver bullet. The only reason those are even more secure is that there's a lot more eyes on them. There's a lot more security being audited there versus these low-quality applications that we just discussed. But yeah, has your phone been hacked? You should actually do a thorough audit. And I'm not talking about download some fucking antivirus check on your device and run it. No, check your permissions manager, check the applications you have installed, okay? If you don't need something or something looks really low quality to you, get rid of it, because chances are it may be compromised. Maybe not by the developer themselves, maybe by a totally different third party. But yeah, I wanted to make this video because I get really sick and tired of reading these articles, and I wanted to really dispel some of these rumors. That said though, I'm looking at some TikTok deep web stuff, which is equally just painful. This is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.